Imagine a small trading company arriving in India for business, and then, step by step, turning into the ruler of an entire subcontinent. No modern army at first, no huge invasion, just trade, politics, betrayal, and strategy. How did the British defeat some of the richest kingdoms in the world? How did one company control millions of people? And how did India finally fight back? This is the story of how Britain took over India. Before the British arrived, India was one of the richest regions in the world. Indian kingdoms controlled valuable trade routes. India exported spices, silk, cotton, steel, and handicrafts across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. The Mughal Empire ruled most of India during the 1600s. Cities like Delhi, Agra, and Lahore were wealthy and powerful. At that time, Britain was nowhere near as rich as India. European countries desperately wanted direct access to Indian trade, and that's where the story begins. In the year 1600, Queen Elizabeth I gave permission to a business called the East India Company to trade with Asia. The company was not a government, it was a private business. Its goal was simple: make profit. The British first arrived in India as traders. They built trading posts in Surat, Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. At first, they depended on Indian rulers for permission, but slowly, the company started building something dangerous: its own army. During the early 1700s, the Mughal Empire started weakening. After Emperor Aurangzeb died in 1707, different regions began breaking away. Many local kingdoms became independent. The Marathas, Nawabs, Sikhs, and other rulers fought for power. India was still rich, but politically, it became divided. The British saw this as an opportunity. Instead of fighting all of India together, they fought Indian kingdoms one by one, and sometimes they made Indians fight each other. The real turning point came in 1757. The Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, tried to stop British expansion. The British, led by Robert Clive, fought him in the Battle of Plassey. But this was not just a battle, it was also betrayal. The British secretly convinced one of the Nawab's commanders, Mir Jafar, to switch sides. During the battle, much of Bengal's army did not fight. Siraj-ud-Dowlah lost, and the British gained control over Bengal, one of the richest regions in India. This victory changed everything. A trading company had now become a political power. After Bengal, the British expanded rapidly, but they did not conquer India only through war. They used multiple strategies: divide and rule, alliances, economic pressure, political manipulation. Some kingdoms were forced into treaties. Others lost wars against the British army. The East India Company had modern weapons, disciplined soldiers, and huge financial resources. Indian rulers often fought separately instead of together. This made British expansion easier. One powerful British strategy was the Subsidiary Alliance system introduced by Lord Wellesley. Indian rulers had to accept British soldiers inside their kingdom. In return, the British promised protection. But there was a catch. The kingdom had to pay huge amounts of money, and they could not make foreign alliances without British permission. Slowly, rulers lost independence. Many kingdoms became dependent on the British without even fighting a war. Another strategy came under Lord Dalhousie. It was called the Doctrine of Lapse. If an Indian ruler died without a biological son, the British could take over that kingdom. Many Indian rulers traditionally adopted heirs, but the British refused to recognize adopted sons. Using this policy, kingdoms like Jhansi were annexed. This created anger across India. The British were not just taking land, they were taking wealth. India's economy was slowly reshaped to benefit Britain. Indian raw materials like cotton were sent to British factories. Finished products were then sold back to Indians. Traditional Indian industries suffered badly. Heavy taxes hurt farmers. Famines became more deadly under British policies. Huge amounts of wealth flowed from India to Britain. Many historians call this the drain of wealth. By 1857, anger against British rule had exploded. Indian soldiers in the British army called sepoys rebelled. One major reason was the new rifle cartridges rumored to contain cow and pig fat, offensive to both Hindus and Muslims. But the revolt was about much more than cartridges. There was anger over land seizures, taxes, political control, and disrespect toward Indian traditions. The rebellion spread across North India. Leaders like Rani Lakshmibai, Bahadur Shah Zafar, Tantia Tope, and Nana Sahib became symbols of resistance. The fighting was intense, but eventually the British crushed the revolt. After the revolt, Britain blamed the East India Company for mismanaging India. In 1858, the British Crown directly took control. This period became known as the British Raj. Now, India was officially ruled by the BR.
Now India was officially ruled by the British government. A viceroy represented the British Crown in India. The company that came for trade was gone, but British rule became even stronger. The British built railways, telegraph lines, and modern administrative systems. These projects changed India forever, but they were also designed to strengthen British control. Railways helped move soldiers quickly, telegraphs improved communication, ports expanded trade for British profits. Some Indians benefited from modernization, but the system mainly served colonial interests. Over time, Indians began organizing against British rule. Educated leaders started demanding rights and representation. In 1885, the Indian National Congress was formed. Movements for freedom slowly grew stronger. Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Subhas Chandra Bose, Bhagat Singh, and many others inspired millions. Protests, movements, boycotts, and sacrifices continued for decades. Finally, after nearly 200 years of British dominance, India became independent on August 15, 1947, but independence also came with partition. India and Pakistan were separated. Millions of people migrated across borders. Violence and tragedy followed. Still, British rule in India had finally ended. A trading company's arrival in 1600 had changed the destiny of an entire subcontinent. The British did not take over India in one single war. They used trade, alliances, betrayal, technology, and political strategy. India's internal divisions made conquest easier, but resistance never stopped, and in the end, millions of Indians fought back to win independence. The story of British rule in India is not just about conquest, it is also about survival, resistance, and freedom.